Welcome to the Simply Authentic podcast with Angie and Tanya, where we hope to inspire you to dream big and push past your fear, empower you to take charge of your own life, and challenge you to be the most authentic self you can be.
Welcome back to the Simply Authentic podcast. I'm Tanya Murfin.
And I'm Angie Mullings.
Angie,
Tanya.
it's 2024.
Yay!
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. You know, we talked about how much we love Christmas. We like, I love the build up to it. I love all the hustle and bustle and shopping and all those things. But I'm really glad when it's done.
Me too.
Yeah.
So glad when it's done. So glad when the mess is cleaned up in my house.
Yes.
Which I'm still kind of cleaning from. That kind of goes on and on.
Yeah.
But
same.
We had an office meeting today in our office and had soup and lunch for everybody. And it was just like a breath of fresh air for everybody. You know, it's a welcome to a new year. Everybody feels different. Mm-hmm. You're motivated to get back to work because, you kind of get lazy over the holidays and you don't want to work.
Right. Right.
But I'm ready to go.
I am too. I was sick right before Christmas. You were sick
Same.
right after or whatever. And so it's good to be feeling good and back in the routine
saddle.
and back in the saddle and have some normalcy.
Yes.
So yeah, we're happy to be here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what our plans are for the year today. Yep. So we thought we'd start with some personal goals that we have, and I'll start by just saying, a couple of years ago, I lost about 35 pounds and felt really good to do it. I was on Noom, which made me track my calories, and I did it not because weight has never been a big thing for me, how much I weigh, because I've always been pretty muscular. So, and muscle weighs more than fat. So.
It does.
So anyway, but I really wanted to just feel better.
Right.
So I lost that over the last, 8-9 months. I've gained back about 10 of that. So I really started thinking, one of my goals is not necessarily to lose those 10 pounds, but really to be intentional about getting into the best physical shape of my life.
Okay.
Just really mentally, physically being in a really good space. And I got out on New Year's Day and took a great walk, and love that I'm getting back into that routine. I've been reading and listening to podcasts about how our bodies change and what I should be doing right now.
Right, at this age.
Yes, exactly. And weightlifting. Not necessarily lifting weights, but just having
strength conditioning.
Exactly.
Yes.
Whether that's, doing planks or, whatever that is. It could be holding your own body weight.
Yes.
So I'm really trying to focus on, if I'm watching television or whatever, I'm trying to be more intentional about lifting weights, not sitting and watching. So just some things, really load-bearing exercises that will help me strength-wise.
Yeah. And I am kind of thinking along the same lines. Mm-hmm. So you and I, podcast junkies, listen to all kinds of different types of podcasts, but one in particular that I had listened to in the last couple of months was about women and their ages and what you should be doing at different ages in strength training, in, conditioning and so forth. Mm-hmm. And us being in our young 50s, you and I kind of think along the same lines there. And so for me, I need to get back into a routine of just doing something consistently because I'm going to admit I have not been back to yoga in probably 9 months. And I love yoga, but it takes a certain amount of efforting. And I've paid for a class I've paid for a membership. Thank you. For 9 months that I've not used. I'm embarrassed to say that, but it also might empower me and others to quit telling yourself that you're going to go back. And when there's that big of a gap in you actually laying on your mat and practicing, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So for me, this past year was very busy with family, babies, and a wedding. And by the time those two things had passed, it was November. And then you're kind of in the thick of business planning and wrapping up the year and the holidays. And I had a small vacation in there. So I have no excuse other than life got in the way. And I think at any age, you have to confront that from time to time. But I have to say, I've never let it go that long with me not doing something consistently. Now, I walk and I love to be outside, either hiking or walking.
Same.
I can't run because I have bad knees, but
I just don't enjoy running.
Me either. Same.
If you're going to choose something, you need to choose something that you do truly enjoy.
Agree. And at this age, there's no reason to lie to yourself and say,
Nope.
I'm gonna still run. No, I'm not. And
No.
I don't need to.
No,
right?
exactly.
Because it's hard on your joints.
Yeah.
So, my knees just can't take it.
Yeah.
But I have to get back into strength training. So what I've seen happen to my body in the last 9 months, I've not been back to yoga. I've seen all of my muscle be dilapidated. And I have to get back to some muscle for my future, because that is what's going to make you and I at our age, and being a woman, eating healthy and putting the right things in your body is very, very important. But losing muscle mass, I think, at a big rate, because I've not done anything consistently.
Right.
I don't feel as good as I can or as good as I could. And I also need to, I need to be looking at that future body and what it needs to look like for me to have my best self and my best health in the next 10 years.
Right. Yeah. And because this is kind of both on our minds, we are going to be interviewing people that are going to help us with nutrition, and we're going to talk to a personal trainer. So we're going to be, these are topics because they're top of mind for us and they're in our goal plan. We, that kind of bleeds over when you're reading books and you're listening to podcasts, and you find those topics that are really important to you. Sometimes that bleeds over into our podcast and what we're going to cover. So we are going to bring our listeners more of that in the future. So look forward to that. I know that both of us love to travel, and that's always on my list of things to do. I have been looking for, and Callie Linville, I'll be reaching out soon, because I really have had this pull to go to Bali or somewhere for a meditation retreat or a yoga retreat, just somewhere away from it, where I can turn off my phone, turn off everything around me, and really get really work on my mindset, on my ability to, I don't mind being by myself at all, and I find myself alone a lot, but I don't always make the most of that time, and I want to get more practiced at doing that. So that's something I really would like to do this year is look at a retreat like that.
I love that. Callie taught us in our Back Porch Hens episode, something she shared was that she tries to go on a solo trip every year by herself. Yeah. And that it just realigns her with her purpose, her why, and not a lot. I don't think, you tell me if you agree or disagree, I don't think a lot of people do that. I don't think a lot of people travel alone.
Right.
And purposefully, right? Plan a big trip. So you to plan to go to Bali, and who knows where you'll end up, but that's a big commitment to go that far away on a solo trip by yourself.
Yeah, so it really is. And what did she say? She went to Israel by herself. Yes. So, kudos to her. I think there is really some validity to doing, and I probably won't go to Bali this year. I'll probably try to stay in the States somewhere. That's why I know she went on something like that. So I want to see where she went. I've been looking into one that's in Arizona next to Zion Park. And maybe that, I travel for National Association of Realtors. I'm not alone when I go,
Right.
but very often I make my own travel plans.
Yes.
So I'm not with somebody on the plane or whatever.
Right.
I mean, when I get there. So I don't know that I've ever traveled truly alone.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my sister took a trip to a dude ranch by herself this year. And sometimes when you go on those, it's purposeful. There are other people there that are
Of course.
there as individuals,
Yes.
and they kind of group you together. And so I don't know
Right.
that you feel. She loved it. I don't know that you feel truly alone, but you can have your alone time.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and you don't have anyone else to plan around, really.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So
beauty in that.
That may happen. I know you've got some
Yeah.
travel thoughts as
I
well.
do. I get to go to Paris very soon.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
I've never traveled overseas. So
Okay.
this is a
Okay.
completely different experience for me. And I've, been reading up on what do I need to take. And, I'm still ordering things on Amazon to go on my trip. Last night was ordering some long johns
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's supposed to be in the 30s.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be cold.
Even during the day.
Yes.
Okay.
The warmest temperatures will be 30s.
Oh, wow.
Now, it might, that was for the first 3 days we're there,
Yeah.
but I'm traveling with my brother and my niece,
Uh-huh.
and I'm super excited about that
Yeah.
because, you plan trips throughout your life, and I've had family vacations when my brother was married and kids were younger, and even our parents, we went on like monumental birthday trips with them, 60 and 65 and 70.
Right.
But I've never just been with Aaron, my brother, and then we're fortunate that my oldest niece, she gets to come as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that'll be fun.
yeah, and last year, 23, because of babies and weddings, I didn't plan a lot of travel at all.
Right.
And I'm like you, I love to experience new places. It always gives you something to look forward to. And
Yes.
I know there's a lot of people that would just rather be at home. I love to be at home, don't get me wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
But I want to see all the sights.
Me too. Yeah.
And so one of my goals for 24 is to get back to travel. And this Paris trip was kind of just a last minute. He called me in September and said, "Hey, you want to go to Paris?" It was one of those, like
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And why not?
Yeah.
Right? So I can get people to cover my work. Madden is here to work for me, and I'll miss my grandbabies, but I've got to get back out and travel
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that makes me feel complete.
Yes. I
Right.
agree. And your brother's traveled abroad before, so
He
at least you'll be
has.
with someone who
Agree.
has
Yes.
done that, because it is helpful if you can travel with someone who kind of knows the ropes. when
I'm
it
so
comes
glad.
to
Yes.
traveling abroad.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be a little more fearful, but I've done my research. He's told me certain things I need to do or bring or plan for, and so I feel like I'll be well prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
what else? What are some other goals?
I'll just mention one other one that I have, and that is because I'll be out there with some of our clients looking for a home this year. I bought a home a couple of years ago that I love. I love my little home, but it is small. And what's frustrating about that is I have 3 storage units, and nothing is
3.
Yes. It's gotten to the point where it's just overwhelming to me.
That
you know?
overwhelms me, and
Yeah,
I have nothing to do with your 3 storage units.
When I clean up, and my house is still not put back together, but it's because I have to make several trips to the storage unit because I have to take my Christmas decor to the storage unit. And then
my
I've got to
gosh.
move everything around. And then, whatever I think I'm going to need next in the year, I want to move it to the front and put the Christmas to the back.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where, at the time that I bought this house, I was living in an apartment. I'd sold my house, was living in an apartment, and I just needed out of that apartment.
Right.
And this was in a great location. And again, I love my house. It's just small.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about real estate in a little bit, just to give our listeners some thoughts we have on what's coming up this
Right.
year. But I do believe that there is going to be more on the market, that I'll have more of a selection now.
Yes.
And then I will, get my life in order, get everything under one roof, because I'm not truly a pack rat, but I feel like a pack rat right now because I've got stuff that I know I may not use, but until I get a house and I'm not sure what I'll use.
Yeah.
And so I need to, I need to declutter and, get it all under one roof. So
That's
I'm not
and that's a big process.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
To have to go through what you don't live with on a daily basis and decide if you're going to get rid of it or you're going to keep it. Do you really need it? So,
well,
we'll pray for that new house for you, Angie, so you can get rid of your 3 storage units.
Exactly.
And speaking of financial, I always have financial goals, but about 5 years ago, I really started thinking about what retirement would look like.
Right.
And then I just needed to start getting there. I needed to start preparing for that because I am single and unmarried and have one income, don't have two. So I needed to get in line with a plan. And I've been really good at doing that. I have one more big goal this year that in 24 that should get me truly on a path to be able to work less in the future whenever I decide that is. And I don't have a year or an age, you know, I love working and I honestly can't imagine not working. Right. But I also want there to be opportunity for me to take off work and be with my grandbabies while they're young and to travel more when I want to on a whim that my brother calls and says, do you want to go to Paris? I say, yes, I do. When are we going? So I think it's always good to have financial goals because like we've talked about in the past, podcasts, you can't actually achieve something unless you set it out in front of you and know what that check mark, you know, what that box needs to be checked off. What is that goal? So I'm looking forward to 24 just being another step closer to that.
Yeah. And unless you put it out there, it's not going to happen. So we just recorded a podcast that just dropped, our financial wellness podcast, and really it's just taking a step, right? It's taking a step towards whatever that looks like for you, and it's never too late to start. So even if you're not quite where Tanya is, get out there and start saving and making a plan. And so we talked about our personal goals. So let's talk a little bit about what our podcast goals are for this year. And, we took a trip back in November. We went on a little retreat. We found that very helpful. We know that we're going to have to do that again and maybe expand that a little bit because it's just hard to get everything done. It is. Right? We have a lot to discuss. There's lots of ideas floating around in our head, but we did talk about that and we've set some goals. And, one of them is really to be very intentional with the guests that we bring on. We started this saying there was no topic that we wouldn't cover, and that's still true today. But when we look back at our analytics for what each of our podcasts has brought in, how many downloads we've had, that kind of thing, there's certainly some that rise to the top. And we are taking a message from that we probably need to have some more conversation around those types of topics.
And you and I both having fitness on our personal goals, one of our most downloaded podcasts is the one on trails that we did on the Greenway trails here around our area. And that tells me, Angie, that you and I are not the only nature lovers and fitness people out there, that we've got so many people that want to learn of more places to get outside and to enjoy a trail. And there were trails that I hadn't heard of. I'm certain that our listeners are in the same boat.
And there's becoming more and more. Just, we talked to Mary Cromry with Ozarks Greenways, but there are trails beyond Springfield that we could explore a little bit. And whether you like to hike or bike or just take a walk, there are more and more options for that, as well as some other, some other things like water sports. I have a kayak that is in storage and has been in storage because,
course.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. That's not even in one of my 3 storage units. That's at my mom's house. So, see, I have stuff beyond the three storage units. So, but I want to get out and use my kayak more. And where's a good place to go if I want to go by myself, if I don't want to try to arrange my schedule with someone else to go, what kind of places? So we're gonna be very intentional with our guests. Obviously, we're trying to get that year started off with talking about financial wellness and physical wellness and mental wellness, all those things. And we have our list of potential guests is long, plus the things that we want to talk about, like today, and talk about the plans that we have for 2024 and beyond. So
putting it out there and starting a conversation. It might start and provoke conversations with others.
Right.
One of our other goals is to have another event / maybe a retreat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have talked to some of our listeners and met with them and gotten some really good feedback and ideas on what would be something that you would attend to enrich your life, yourself. It'd be fun, but also learn from others. And so we're exploring that.
Right.
And stay tuned for more information on that. We really have some big ideas there that we're hoping we can do something in 24 with some sort of a retreat.
Yeah. And that's something I'm really excited about because as we've, again, tried to be in tune with our listeners, we've heard that, what is missing? What do you really need? And we want to try to provide that. And like you said, in meeting with some of our listeners one-on-one and having the little get together that we had for our biggest listeners, what we thought was our biggest fans, expanding that, perhaps, like you said, making it a retreat. And this would not be like a girls' weekend. This would be truly about mindset and growth and all those things. Something, again, very intentional. I keep using that word.
You do.
It's a good word.
It's a good word.
But anyway, so I am excited about the possibilities of that and what that might entail.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah.
And one other kind of idea we have, the idea of expanding the community and building community within our podcast. And what goes with that in our minds is something that you and I kind of know that we have shared together, and that is leadership skills. And we are just exploring that to see if there is a need out there for something to be shared in that capacity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think, leadership is a big term. It could be leader of your family, leader in your friends group, leader at church, leader, we all have some area of our life that we are leading in.
Yes.
And how could we help make that better? I'm entering my 29th year of real estate, and you
22.
22.
Yep.
So, we've got, and most of that has been leading our own companies, learning from one of the best organizations out there in terms of structure and organization is the Association of Realtors, whether that be locally, state, or nationally. And we've learned so much. And again, we're about giving to our community and helping people rise above and be the best and most authentic self that is achievable. So, we're just exploring what that might mean and how we might bring you more content in different ways.
Right.
So,
And as you said, people lead in ways they don't give themselves credit for. We're looking for a common connection there that we might be able to help in some way or advise in some way. So stay tuned for more of that.
Right.
Talk of that.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that we obviously need to talk about is real estate.
It's real estate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Angie, I'm certain that you have listened to and watched some of the same things that I have in the past 2 months, really.
Right.
When our real estate year comes to an end, we are getting all kinds of forecasts from Buffini and from NAR. And so if you listen to the news every other day, then you're also getting a update from what the news media thinks is happening or will happen.
Right.
So as of last week, we had 9 reductions in interest rates in 9 weeks. So for 9 weeks, it has fallen a little bit. We're not talking about whole points at this point.
No.
But we're talking about reduction. And that's better than inflation of that rate going up.
Right.
So we are excited about 24 and getting back to more buyers and sellers out there. I think a lot of people have been on pause the last 6 months of this year, or of last year, of 23. And so we're going to see that change, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Seeing the reduction, and again, you mentioned it not being points. It's not going to be full points. It's going to be something in small increments. I think we'll see a continuation a little bit in the downward trend, but the days of 3 or 4% are gone.
Yeah.
So we need to be very happy if it gets to a 6.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I think, and I think in terms of spurring the market, if you're someone who is holding on to your house, even though you may need to move for space or for a job or whatever, if you're holding on to that house because you've got a 4% interest rate, you know, if it's 6, it's not as big of an issue as if it was 8.
Yeah.
You know, going from 4 to 8 is
For
something
sure.
quite different than going from 4 to 6.
Yeah.
And I think it's manageable. And I will say that 23 was a challenging year for real estate in my mind, because anytime the market shifts, realtors have a hard time figuring out what's going on in the marketplace. You know, watching the market, seeing, you know, what pricing should be. We're at now locally at a 30-day average time on market. You know, this time last year it had slowed because the interest rates kept going up, but still our time on market was more like 14, and now we're at 30. So those houses are on the market a little bit longer, but that's okay. That's more of a normal thing.
Yes.
And I want to impress upon our listeners that that is normal. You know, the frenzy of the multiple offers and having to make a decision in 24 hours, those kinds of things. I am grateful those are pretty much behind us, because it really was not fair to some first-time home buyers, to some other people. So I really am looking forward to 24 being more normal, if you will.
Agree.
And
and normal is up to that, possibly that month's environment of what is going on in our world of real estate, because normal went away multiple years ago of what we used to think was normal. So there is no new normal now. However, we're hoping to get back to a new normal that is still yet to be defined, right? So the 20, 21, 22 years needed to go away. That madness and frenzy needed to end. Things were happening entirely too fast. And as we get into 24, we are hoping that the consumer confidence is raised tremendously with, okay, you know, I've sat in these higher rates now for a year, and they're not at 8 any longer. And hopefully the, you know, mid-6s, they were a little over mid-6 at the end of last week. On average, those will continue to fall. But if they stay in the low 6s, and that's a new normal, I think the consumers will start to say, okay, we need a new house. So let's look at what that looks like. And will we get everything we wanted before when we had a 3% rate market? Maybe not. but we still need a bigger house.
Right.
So people are still going to need to move, have to move. They have to in every season. But
Right.
we're hoping a lot of those people that have been sitting on the fence are now going to come back into the market, and they're going to sell their house because they need a bigger house, or they're going to sell their house because now they need a smaller house,
Right,
frankly. A couple
right.
years have went by and they're an empty nest or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So we're anxious for the new year to get started here and to
Yeah.
see that consumer confidence come back.
Yeah. And from everything I read and listen to, I believe that's what's going to happen. I think we will have a little more inventory, which is what we've been struggling with for the last several years. I
Yes.
think we're going to see more of that. And then, as we've talked, the interest rates coming down a little bit. So as we start to wrap up here,
Yes.
I just want to say that, we've shared what our goals are. We hope that you listen to our goals podcast and you've sat down and written out some of your goals. But I listened to John Maxwell today, and one of his things was consistency is truly the name of the game. Whenever you are setting goals, it is about staying consistent within that and doing something every day towards that goal.
Right.
And even if you fall off the wagon,
Yeah. As we do.
as we do.
Yes.
It's don't let it get away from you. No, don't say, "Oh, I ate that whole chocolate pie and now I'm screwed. I'm just going to eat everything."
Can never
in
get
sight."
back. Yeah. No, don't do that.
No, tomorrow's a new day. Just like we have a new year, every day is new. So
Yes.
tomorrow's a new day. If you mess up today, just get up tomorrow with a different intention and
Absolutely.
work on that consistency piece of that.
Yeah. And it takes a while to form a habit. We all know that.
Exactly.
So the beginning of the year is the best time to decide on what those goals are going to be and to get started, no matter what that looks like.
Right.
So
Okay.
we want to thank Gershman Mortgage. We appreciate them hosting us, and we look forward to bringing you more exciting topics in 24. Stay tuned.
See you soon. Thanks for listening to the Simply Authentic podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcasting app.